The pasty of the operas here inside your pastry. Hello and welcome. Yes, so this is happening, says Russel Brand. Now, anybody who would have heard my recent Lawrence Easman podcast would know that I'm not necessarily a fan of Brand's new direction of fear porn constantly in a manner which the mainstream is delivered over and over to kind of combat the mainstream while also lifting up people like Greenwald, Taibbi, Matt Bloody Hegemony, Bloody Family Hegemony Taibbi, and many more, including some of the worst in the world, like Yuval Noah Harari, who people know that I don't like very much, him and his transhumanist buddies sitting up on Davos making speeches with a little bit of duper stellar in their face. Don't like it anyway. Well, Brand's been accused of loads of things, hasn't he? And so we're going to discover this news pasty, and we're going to hear a bit of column A and a little bit of column B, because he could be innocent, and there's a good reason why the mainstream would want to attack him.
Hello there, you awakening wonders. Now, this isn't the usual type of video we
No shit, it's not the usual type of video, mate. You've just been ad.
make on this channel where we critique, attack and undermine the news in all its corruption, because in this story, I am the news. I've received two extremely...
One goddamn moment there. He just said this isn't going to be normal where we critique the news and undermine the news, because I am the news. Now let me go on to critique and undermine the news. So he's exactly what he's doing. It's exactly what he's saying he's not doing. But I would think that his mind's a little bit misty at the moment because they're trying to destroy his career, just as his mojo is waning.
Disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, as well as some pretty stupid stuff like my community festival should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to...
It is a bit of deflection there. There is a bit of deflection there, that, you know, all stupid attacks as well. The serious attacks are pretty serious, but he's gonna go into them, isn't he?
Attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute.
The allegations are that he raped multiple girls and he's abused multiple girls, and there is some circumstantial evidence, by the sounds of it, to back up some of the allegations, and there is also a load of holes. And the fact that the TV program Channel 4 Dispatches had all of the accusers voiced by actors at this stage is just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. If you're going to come out and accuse someone, come out and accuse someone. If you're going to try and do that, do it. If it's true, then you play out by saying, I am standing up for myself. This is me and this is my words. Not get actors to do it. That was just cringeworthy. The whole thing was a little bit like undermined by a load of the ways that the thing had been done, that the whole documentary had been done. The whole assassination attempt, because it is an assassination attempt on the credibility of someone who I don't think is credible.
These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies, and as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous.
This relates to a time when he was in really awful TV, doing really awful movies for the really awful mainstream media. When back in the day, me and Monkey used to flick through the channels on TV, and if we got onto Big Brother, we'd turn it over, and if we got onto MTV, we'd turn it over, because they were shit, and he was on shit stuff all the time. Then he made shit movies. Movies like, oh, Forgetting Sarah Marshall is one of the most boring, stupid movies of all time. All of his movies were rubbish. Everything that he did up until the moment he got involved in the true stuff was rubbish. And then he did that for a bit. He made a shitload of errors within that too. Fucked off people like Lawrence Easman during that period. And didn't defend them against claims. Now he's going to expect you to defend him against claims because he became a guru. Because he became a guru eventually. But during all of that time, the early time, I've got to be honest, he was Mr. Sleazy, and every time he was on the TV in my house, we would turn him over for maybe a decade or more. We would turn over Russel Brand because he was sickeningly, cringeworthingly sleazy over everybody, especially women, and his manner was awful. That doesn't make him an abuser or a rapist, but it was awful. I mean, disgusting. Just like hard for me to watch.
Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent. And I'm being transparent
Almost
about
too
it now as
transparent.
well. And to see
Almost too transparent. Of course, you were almost too transparent. You were doing stand-up comedy, and you were talking about your sex life, and that sex life was happening around you. So afterwards, these people can say, "Oh, he treated me this way," and then he made fun of it in the comedy. But we don't know what came first, the chicken or the egg, do we? Because you did that. You got up on stage and you talked about things. Or, you know, the mascara running is good. It's good for dramatic effect. Well done. Oh, it's a good as a joke, I suppose, if you like that sort of thing. But it's not. It's creepy. It's cringeworthy. It's really dated now. It was like, oh, shock humor. Well, shock humor comes back and can shock you in the same way. If someone says that you did that to them, it's no longer a joke, is it? So whether that's true or not, you've entered into that bargaining with like the proverbial devil. You've entered onto the road where I'm going to make the edgiest jokes around and pretend there's no consequences to what I say, even though that whether we like it or not, and whether I or you or he agrees with it or not, because I love people being able to say everything. I love that. I love people being able to say everything. These, what we're fighting against is people trying to get you to say only what they want you to say. And where he was pushing the boundaries, but in a creepy, cringeworthy way for the mainstream media.
that transparency metastasized into something criminal that I absolutely deny makes me question, is there another agenda at play? Particularly when we've seen coordinated media attacks before, like with Joe Rogan when he dared to take a medicine that the mainstream media didn't approve of.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, but all of those attacks are from people who know other people online. I saw some guy earlier. I don't know, was it Miles Chong, someone like that, who's saying, "Oh, these are the most censored people," and it's like Russel Brand, Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan. They got the biggest. They're always in like suggested to me on all of the mainstream platforms. They're on the mainstream platforms. They're like I watched a Jordan Peterson interview on the Guardian the other day or something. You know, they're on all the mainstream platforms and they claim to be the counterculture. And it looks like very Hegelian to me. It looks very Hegelian to lots of people. Like people like Joe Rogan, Russell Brand, and others have been created to fill a hole, or at least employed, recruited, noted, and put into the position of Pasty in chief, who's going to wreck your mind with the beefy onion stuff that they're going to put inside your brain instead of sense.
And we saw a spate of headlines from media outlets across the world using the same language. I'm aware that you guys have been saying in the comments for a while, watch out, Russell, they're coming for you, you're getting too close to the truth.
But what he's saying here, if he did do the things in the past, which to be honest, I think it's like 50-50. I think there'll be some truth in it and there's some lies to it. It's not going to be Russell Brand's version of events, and it's not going to be the girls and or the Channel 4 Dispatches documentary, and I think it was Times was it, or whoever did the actual article. I don't think I think it would be neither of those will be the truth. The truth will lie somewhere in the middle, and it'll be a lot murkier, a lot shadier, and the fact is you sold out to the mainstream media for a life of sex and drugs. What did you expect to happen? You're now saying a logical fallacy. Oh, look, or the mainstream media is corrupt. Ergo, that means that there might be another reason why this is happening. Yes, it's corrupt, but it does not mean that you did not do the things you did. And you were openly acting like that, Russ. You were openly acting in a way that was problematic for everybody involved. Everybody knew it was a problem. You knew it was a problem. So later on, you sold out to the mainstream media. You sold your soul to them. And now you expect like people to say, oh, yeah, look at that evil mainstream media. How did you end up in this position where you've got 6.6 million followers that you could lose on YouTube or any of the other ones? How did you get there? You got there by selling out to the mainstream media, by climbing up the ranks and then trying to reform your name and the narrative around you afterwards. And now that's all very good. People grow up, but you still sold out to the mainstream media. What do you expect to happen apart from it to devour you eventually?
Russel Brand did not kill himself. I know that a year ago there was a spate of articles. Russel Brand's a conspiracy theorist. Russel Brand's right wing. I'm aware of news media making phone calls, sending letters to people I know for ages and ages. It's been clear to me, or at least it feels to me, like there's a serious and concerted agenda to control these kind of spaces.
This is exactly why Russel Brand decided to go over to Headline Rumble and sell out to the Teal Network, because he knew all of this was going on and he needs to pick a side. So they pick sides. This is Hegelian. He goes and sits on the other side. So he's interviewing Taibbi and they're doing a psyop so that they can eventually turn Twitter into WeChat and have them do everything and surveil you all the time and look at you all the time. And you have to use it for your function to do everything. They want to do that, so then they give you, oh, it's freedom, Elon Musk's bringing you freedom, all these people, let's bring you people who's going to tell you about this. Oh, Matt Taibbi, and what did Matt Taibbi do in the past? What was Matt Taibbi accused of when he was working in was it the Exile in Russia? Was it called the Exile, I think? Where they were writing about abusing women, and the women who worked for them said they were being abused by them. Matt Taibbi gets his interview with Russel Brand. At the same time, people are still asking questions about that, and he's going, oh, it's not true. You know, in one report, he threw water over him or something in the street and called him names and threatened to attack him because he couldn't understand why he'd undermine him. But Matt Taibbi's father's a same sort of position in the past. It's a hegemony there. There's hegemony. There's loads of it around. Aaron Mate and people like that. Their fathers are the same. They alternative media, alternative solutions, alternative ideas, alternative philosophy. That's what they capture, those areas. And who else is he pushing out? You know, there's so many people he's pushing out that are problematic, like Yuval Noah Harari, one of the kings of transhumanism, and you know he'll tell you what's going to happen like it's a terrible thing with a little smile on his face, and Russel Brand will be like, oh, what can we learn from you in a positive way? He's the devil. What are you doing? These people, they've sold out. So what happens? The beast turns on them eventually.
Faces and these kind of voices, and I mean my voice
Pasty
along with your voice. I don't mind them using my books and my stand-up to talk about my promiscuous consensual conduct in the past.
You don't
what
mind
I seriously refute are these very, very serious criminal allegations. Also, it's worth mentioning that there are witnesses whose evidence directly contradicts the narratives that these two mainstream media outlets are trying to construct.
I completely believe that. I can completely believe that. You know, one of the problems is Channel 4 Dispatches is going to ask Channel 4 about Channel 4's time employing to Russel Brand. Oh, did you do this, Channel 4? Oh, yes, Channel 4, I did do this. Oh, did you? No, I'm not going to, actually, I'm not going to comment, Channel 4. Okay, Channel 4, you don't have to comment. Same thing happened just 6 months ago or something? Tim Westwood with the BBC News asking the BBC for a quote, and the BBC saying, oh, no, BBC News, unfortunately, we're not going to give you any information. And the BBC News going, are you sure, BBC News? You're very naughty, BBC News. Oh, yeah, BBC. This is how they do it. It's how they do it. They always do the same thing. So they are corrupt as hell. But everybody is corrupt here, baby. Everybody. Do not fall for the fallacy. Do not. When someone says to you, just because one thing is true, that makes another thing true, use your logical, reasoning mind.
Apparently, in what seems to me to be a coordinated attack. Now, I don't want to get into this any further because of the serious nature of the allegations, but I feel like I'm being attacked, and plainly they are working very closely together.
Of course, they're working very closely together because you've already set down your stall, because you already knew they were coming for you, because you've already started on a path where you've chosen, where am I going to make money and be famous? Am I going to do it over here on the mainstream anymore? No, because I've burnt all my bridges, and the woke culture is catching up, and people like me are going to be thrown to the fire. So what am I going to do? Okay, I'll turn and join the other devil. I'm going to turn and join the other devil. Rumble, Rumble, why did you come across to my channel on Rumble? I got a channel on Rumble. We all got a channel on Rumble. You're headlining Rumble. You're headlining Rumble over there for Peter T. And it will only be a freedom of speech platform for a certain amount of time. The other day, I uploaded one of my videos there, and it took 24 hours. Guess what it was about? Yeah, it was about hunting those peas, those PEDOS. Yes, those guys, those are the guys that I was hunting. And guess what? Guess what? They want to stop you doing things all over the place that can help. They want to stop you. They are Rumble is going to be the same as YouTube eventually. It's all government. So Russel Brand is just on one side of the establishment.
We are obviously going to look into this matter because it's very, very serious. In the meantime, I want you to stay close, stay awake, but more important than any of that, if you can, please stay free. Hello there, you awakening.
You stay free. That's maybe he's projecting that out to himself to stay free here, eh? Because I do think that he must be a little bit worried that there will be some form of criminal prosecution. One of the allegations was pretty serious. 16-year-old girl. I didn't like any of that. It sounded like it should be investigated. And I hate when the police don't investigate, but I also hate when it's a witch hunt. So what this is, well, they should look into it properly, and this shouldn't be like this. But unfortunately, the police won't act unless you put pressure on. So there is a need for this. This is why I do the pea hunting, the funting, is because the police don't do anything, so I have to do something about it. Let's go across the media plane, shall we? Let's go look at the other side. Times Radio. Oh my God, Times Radio. It's hard to listen and look at Times Radio stuff. It's really cringeworthy. And here you go. Look at this guy. You've got some woke hippie picking the fleas out of his hair who's going to talk about Russel Brand. Bet you he feels uncomfortable about it all.
I actually have been quite alarmed by some of the response to this. There is a reasonable debate to be had about.
Okay, this is interesting. So what spin? Can we guess what the spin is? Because I like I said, tell you, I haven't seen this beforehand. So what do you think the spin is going to be? Do you think he's going to say there's a reasonable debate to be had, but they're not accusing Brand of being a rapist, so really worried about it? You know, is it that, they're not on the establishment side and mainstream media side with a narrative, so that makes me really concerned? Is that what it's going to be? Because if that's what it's going to be, that's what Times Radio, I've seen them do over and over. Let's see, shall we? Let's see how much pasty this guy can fit in his mouth before it comes out of his bum.
How claims like this are processed in the media, and you can have a debate about the journalism that's done. I think it's pretty good, frankly, but
there you go. Already a start. I think it's pretty good, frankly. The using actors was a really good idea. I tell you what, if I want to believe someone, I'd prefer someone who's doing like signals with a hand, actor doing signals with a hand to go, oh my God, it was terrible. And I don't know if that's how the person sounded in the first place. So is the person who's speaking, yeah, it's their words, but are they over dramatizing, or are they just talking? And the actors over dramatizing really undermines everything really badly. Also, there was loads of holes in a load of the stories where it was like, why are you even telling us this bit by here? It doesn't make any sense. Like, I have to, there was one girl who was like, I was getting text messages from him, and he was like, please come over. I'm alone. Why don't you come over and we cuddle? And she's like, I just went to go over and I was just going to hang around with him. And it's like, if you go over to a guy's house in the night who you've been having some form of like mini relationship, and he's been flirtatious with you, and he says he wants to cuddle, what the fuck do you think's gonna I mean, I'm not saying that gives him any rights, yeah, but if you put yourself into an area where it's like, oh, I'm going to cuddle this guy, and then the guy gets cuddly, and you're like, rah! We don't know what happens behind it. You know, I really do think there's an element, even in that story. I think there's an element of truth afterwards. You know, the girl. I think that was the one where the girl runs off and she goes to like a rape crisis center, has a load of stuff done, takes contraceptive stuff, and then has a backwards and forwards exchange with him with messages. Well, that looks really, really bad. If that's true, that looks really bad. But I have no way to verify all of this stuff. Most people don't have any ways to verify this stuff. So it becomes an actor speaking someone's lines and saying a load of stuff that we can't really verify, and having people say, oh, other people saw this and she told other people that this was true. So someone could tell someone a load of lies. You know, everybody has in their life sometime where someone tells a lie about them. That's the way it goes. That's the way it goes.
You've got people coming, like Elon Musk, for example, coming out and saying, well, of course they don't like competition. The idea being that somehow Russell Brand's success in alternative media has meant that Channel 4 and the Sunday Times and the Times are going after him to almost sort of kill his career. That's not what's happening here. These are extremely serious allegations.
But they're serious allegations, but that does not mean that they're true. And it does not mean that people are not using serious allegations to come after. That is, again, this is full. On Russell Brand's side, Times side, all of the sides, this is a load of logical fallacies. You know, oh, it's really good. You know, they're really serious accusations. Ergo, you know, there's no reason why it would be an attack on someone's character to diminish them in another area of the media, when that's obviously what they're doing all of the time. They're trying to undermine things all of the time. Of course, this is full of logical fallacies. These are what these guys do. All of them, both sides, logical fallacies galore.
Extremely sensitive allegations, and they've been dealt with by very good journalists who are seeking to tell these people's stories, these young women's stories. This is not
seeking to tell these young women's stories, right? But they need to tell all of the story, don't they? This is, you know, journalism isn't just one-sided, so you need to tell all of the story. And what they've done here is definitely hit piece-ish. You know, this is a hit piece to get someone who's got 6.6 million followers. It's becoming uncomfortable for the mainstream media. That's true. And also true, he's got one hell of a shady history where if you went back in it, you could find a load of stuff that you could write a hit piece about, but not enough to get a conviction. So if it's not enough for a conviction, is it just a hit piece?
About Russell Brand's YouTube show. Frankly, that's not relevant here.
Yeah. So Russell Brand has been accused of rape, sexual...
Okay. It is extremely relevant. I think that was a clip, so he's going to repeat that. And when that repeats, I will probably leave it run through unless something else comes into my mind. But still, this is Russell Brand. Yeah, Russell Brand has a YouTube show. It's not just Russell Brand's YouTube show. He has 6.6 million followers on the one channel, and he's heading up another on one platform, and he's heading up another platform, and he gets loads of other attention. So this is problematic. And yes, that is one of the main things that they're trying to do in the world, is target people who have got massive platforms. Does not mean those people are innocent. Does not mean that would be a logical fallacy again.
Assault and emotional abuse over a 7-year period. The allegations come from a joint investigation by the Sunday Times, the Times and Channel 4's Dispatches, which aired last night. Brand denies the claims and said his relationships were consensual. But Josh, let's start with you on this one. What do we know about this story?
Well, there are 3 women whose allegations are laid out in the Sunday Times this morning. They are speaking under pseudonyms.
So, right, okay, there you go. There's the starting problem. There's the starting problem. If it's strong enough to say it out loud, then they should not be under pseudonyms. The reason they're under pseudonyms is the case is not strong enough, and it will not hold up in court. So this is 3 girls. I thought it was 4. There was one extra in the documentary. There was 3 girls whose case is being laid out in the Sunday Times.
One is called Alice. and she alleges that Brand
But
was
she's a
sexually
pseudonym.
and emotionally abusive towards her when she was just 6.
Wait one goddamn second. Are you kidding me? Are you are they all under pseudonyms and her name isn't really Alice? And they've chosen the young 16-year-old to be called Alice after the famous Alice in Wonderland, which was a paedophile's wet dream, literally written by a guy who was abusing a girl called Alice and her sister. Is this seriously they would do that? Can you not see the subliminal messaging inside there? Her name was Alice. She was a young girl. She was very small. Was her name Alice? No. No, her name wasn't Alice at all. Okay, where are we? Where are we? That is really creepy because I heard it last night, but I thought it was her name. Her name was actually Alice. I didn't realize they were all under pseudonyms. That's terrible that they were all under pseudonyms as well. Who's accusing him? Alice in Wonderland, the Smiling Ginger Cat, and the Mad Hatter, as far as anybody's concerned, because you don't have anybody actually standing up for what they believe. Listen, if they're making these accusations out in the media, they got to get ready to be sued if they're false. So they better be going to the police and getting the police to investigate first to see if they've got a case so they don't end up in that situation. This is really, that is, I didn't realize that, and that I think undermines massively the documentary and the article in the Sunday Times, because it says they haven't thought about that aspect of the case at all. They're throwing these girls to the wolves because they know that there is no way that will be a conviction, and that is much more likely to be a defamation. That is throwing these girls to the wolves. And if it even if it's true or false, it's still throwing them to the wolves.
16 years old, and that was in 2006. Another goes under the name Nadia, and she alleges that she was raped by Brand in Los Angeles in 2012. And she's shared text messages that...
Yeah, the one who goes under Nadia. I despise that. Despise that. This is... You're accusing him out loud. You're accusing him out loud. You don't have the ability. You can't do this. You can't do that. That's so silly. That so undermines your whole case. You're accusing him out loud. You have to use your name. You have to accept. Yes, the whole point is you stand up for your cause. You stand up and be counted. You stand up and you say, this is me and this is what happened to me. I completely understand. You have to say it out loud. You cannot do that. It's just not believable.
Came in the aftermath of that. And a third woman called Phoebe claims that she was sexually assaulted while working at Brand's home in 2013. So those are the claims against him, and he obviously has denied them strenuously.
Let's just listen to...
They just nod quickly. Oh, yes, he denied them strenuously. Let's just listen to more of the salacious stuff.
One of the women involved. This is the case of Nadia, one of the women spoken to by the Sunday Times. That's a pseudonym, of course, and this is part of her story. She, of course...
I don't think... I think by tone... He doesn't like that. He doesn't like that this under pseudonym. But just by this tone there, I would say that he's uncomfortable about that, Bolton, if that is Bolton.
Says that she was raped. Her comments have been dubbed. And we should warn you that you may find some of what she has to say distressing.
July 1st, 2012
you could listen
was
to NEWSPASTY if
when
you
my
want to
rape
stress
happened.
it.
I was out late, and he happened to call me and say, I've had a really bad day. Please come over. And at first I said, no, I'm not going, it's late. And he's like, please come, just come and cuddle with me.
Wait, oh my God. I mean, I can't even so he phones me, it's really late. I'm in Hollywood. I'm an actor, by the way. This is someone else's story. So I'm in Hollywood, and he says, hey, come over. I've had a really bad day. And I'm like, no, it's late. I want to go to bed. I'll come over and have a cuddle with me. I just don't understand. At that point, it's like, what are you? Where are you? If you go over, what do you think a man means by a cuddle in the night? What do you mean a cuddle? Oh, I just need 5 seconds of emotional support, and then you can leave again, get out of the taxi. Does anybody actually live real relationships here? Right, this guy here, sitting here, how many times has been on a couch awkwardly trying to kiss a girl or a guy? Or something else. How many times is he? This guy we're watching on the screen now. How many times he looks like the most awkward? Look how his neck is like constantly down. He's gonna have such bad back when you think because he's constantly slouching. I think that's partially because he doesn't kind of believe in himself. I think that's why they had to adjust the camera loads because he's slouching more and more the less he believes in himself. But can you imagine? He doesn't look like the most confident, so he would have to use certain very probably like higher tactics or clever tactics to try and incite some sort of bonding between a potential mate. That's what we're talking about here. I mean, if you wanted to do it in technical terms, we could go like, oh, you know, these people want to get a mate, so they say things like, do you want to come over to my house and we cuddle? And then girls come, you know, I've said that to a girl, not cuddle. I've been like, you want to come over to my house? And you know, and they're like, yeah. And then they come over, and what do you think happens? Sex. Oh my god. Of course. And I don't understand. Like that made me like the story seems believable. Like what she says afterwards seems believable. The text messages, if they're what they say, and there was a lot cut out, then maybe it's believable. But the problem is that she could see that situation approaching, and she seemed to put herself inside it and then react appropriately. Now, if you're dealing with people who have got lots of fame and lots of money, then putting yourself in a dangerous situation that isn't that dangerous and then suing them later might be a tactic for some people. So logically, you can say there would be a reason why she would put herself in danger and then act the victim afterwards. Because but she can also, again, it would be a logical fallacy to think that she isn't a victim because of that. If she's put herself in a situation where she can be victimized and then the person has victimized her, you know, who's wrong? Well, there's a little bit of wrong over here and there's a load of wrong over there. So all of this is, but people use strategies, techniques to get a mate. This guy does too. So these guys have to suddenly have had the most, all of these guys, the guys laughing in the background on the other show, Adam Bolton, if that's who's over there, this guy here, and the woman, none of their sexual encounters would have been like perfect. They would have been awkward, weird, lots of slobbering, kissing, drinking, some encounters which don't go well and some encounters that go well, and they all act as though they're completely virtuous at these times, but they've all been rutting, sweaty beasts at some point.
So then I gave in and I'm like, okay. The door was unlocked. I just walked into his place. He comes running out of the bedroom naked. He came at me with kisses and stuff, which...
That sounds like Russel Brand, though. That sounds like if I was a woman and Russel Brand, during that period specifically, and I knew him over a long period, phoned me, said, do you want to come over? I'm had a bad day. Do you want to have a cuddle? I'd come over and I'd expect Russel Brand to be naked, acting like a fool and trying to kiss me. I would be expecting that. You'd have to be the most like perfectly naive angel not to expect that. And there is no one in LA like that. No one in LA is that naive. I mean, it just seems like we get ridiculously naive when it comes to these things. Suddenly, everybody's allowed to be. This woman was a woman. She wasn't a little girl. This one, I don't think this wasn't a girl who was 16. This isn't Alice. This is a woman who was a woman. She was doing a job. She was, she got into a situation where she says, "Oh, I felt really awkward." But look at how she got into the situation. Do you want to come for a cuddle? Do you want anything? Flirt? Yes. Okay. Suddenly he starts acting like you'd expect him to act. And then I got scared. I'm not sure where the truth lies there. It's so murky. It's so weird. Again, this guy who's listening, he would have been in situations as well. He's probably got a girlfriend. All of us have got girlfriends and boyfriends who don't like the way we've acted at some point, or where we've jumped around and been silly, or where we've expected something to happen and it's not happened, or where people have lied about other people, straight up lied. So, I mean, you can't think it's the one thing. There's so many holes in this. It's so hard to understand. And when we're listening to this, everybody's so scared to comment on it, because if you comment on it, then you're a brute, aren't you? You're a nasty. You're not sensitive to the victim. But they're not a victim. They're an accuser. We don't know if they're a victim, and you need to assert that. The first thing you need to do is see if they're credible. You can't see if they're credible if they're an actor speaking words that we don't even know how those words have been put into script and which words were edited in and edited out. This has been an event.
It was kind of fun, and then it wasn't that fun when I couldn't move. I knew what he wanted from me at that point. He pushed me up against the wall. I'm like, what are you doing?
He told you he's coming for a kettle. What do you think he wanted?
I have a friend here, and I want you to come into the bedroom. I'm like, no, that's not happening. We're not doing that. And I tried to get away from him. My bag got actually stuck underneath a huge painting, and it's still on my arm. And at this point, he's grabbing at my underwear, pulling it to
right. I don't understand the bag comment. My bag. So she's holding a bag, and it's trapped under an enormous painting. I don't understand that sentence. I when I heard it yesterday, I rewound it as well. I was like, what do you mean? So I had my bag on my shoulder, and it was trapped under an enormous painting. And then he started grabbing at me and pulling my knickers to the side. I'm like, well, why is the painting in the handbag important at this point? If you're, there's other things to be concerned about. Now, did this happen? Do we know if this happened? We don't know. But I mean, what happens afterwards does seem suspect.
Aside, I'm telling him to get off me, and he won't get off.
Emma Pinchbeck, what do you make of this front page story, of course, broken by the Sunday Times? And
they're not going to comment. That one guy looked really nervous. He looked really nervous. I mean, he looks like his heart's going really fast. He's looking for everybody else to take over. They're all really nervous about talking about this. They're not going to comment on the actual thing they just listened to. They're just going to put it out there as a piece of propaganda, and they're not going to comment it. They're going to talk about something else straight away.
Channel 4, but also on the front page of nearly every other newspaper now.
Yeah, I mean, I read it with my small daughter on my knee, which I do not recommend anyone do. It's pretty harrowing stuff.
What the type of sentence is that? What a weird thing to do, to try and then combine her small daughter with the virtue and guilt or shame of Russel Brand accusers, when you don't know if the accusers. So are you keeping an open mind that the accusers might be in it for other reasons, or that some of it might have been to do with something else? No, I'm finding it harrowing because I believe it all, and my daughter was on my knee, so that makes it more virtuous.
And I think as a woman of that generation, it doesn't particularly surprise me either. Most of the women I know have stories about, behavior from men which is bordering on criminal.
Well, I fucking know a load of stories of women who are bordering on criminal too. I mean, serious. There's all sorts of people who are criminal. But of course, people have had experiences and terrible times. Yeah, that does not make all stories true. Again, a logical fallacy. And this woman, she doesn't even seem to be saying anything. She just seems to be looking for, right, I was sitting my daughter on my knee when I was reading it, and you shouldn't do that. Yeah, all of us know people who've done this type of thing. That's weak fallacy so far. I mean, really weak.
Awful in that way, and my inclination in these sorts of stories is always to believe the victims, because
my inclination is always to believe the victims, regardless. So what does that mean? What does it mean if you're already calling them a victim, always, what she actually means is always believe the accusers, but she's replaced the words accusers with victims, which is fundamentally psychologically telling that she sees them already as victims and not as accusers. So then she's saying, I'm always siding with the people I've already decided to side with because they're female or they're vulnerable, and I've heard stories that back it up. So that must mean logical fallacy, logical fallacy, logical fallacy. All of this is pasty. Pasty is logical fallacy. It does not make any sense. Why would you put the meat and the onions inside the pastry? I don't understand.
It's so hard to come forward. And I know that from, the women I know, the women I work with,
The women I know, the women I work with, it's hard to come forward. About what? About what? About what? About who? You're just making things up. This is just like, this is like having 4 actors. You're having an actor in your mind. You could just be making any of this up. She's got a little smile on her face even as she does it. People are just, this is weird.
If you talk to anyone.
Oh my God. It was, wait. Right. I'm not sure about this whole smiling business, because she's got a bit of a smile, like Duper's delight look on her face. That's it. There we go. Look at that. You're talking about abuse, and you've got your lips going up at the side when you finish these sentences that are all logical fallacies and are aimed to trick people into believing what you believe, whether you even believe it or not.
Talk to anyone of that generation, they'll have a story, and I think empathize hugely with what the victims have gone through. I mean, the other thing, my job is I work in business, and I think the business sector is doing its own reckoning with behaviours and expectations about how people behave and how we.
The business sector, I work within business, and the business sector is having its own reckoning. What the hell are you talking about? This woman is just awful. You can see why she's got on Times Radio. She is just vacuous nothingness.
Treat allegations like this, and we've seen stories like this all year in my community.
Then are not allegations, they're crimes in your book, because you always believe the victims, don't you? So the accusers, they make some victims, so these are automatically crimes. So you've automatically prosecuted them, haven't you?
And I will tell you that certainly for the graduates coming through, for the women I work with, there is this desire to have stories like this taken much more seriously, to have proper.
Yeah, to have these stories. It's a desire, because then it gives women some sort of power that they could just use all of a sudden. A woman can turn around and say, he's abusive. He's abusive to me. Oh, how's he abusive? Oh, I'm not going to tell you that. Just going to say he's abusive. Oh, how is he abusive? What has that he actually done? Oh, he's abusive. He's abusive. That's all it takes then to finish off loads of people. And trust me, that happens.
The processes in place to have transparency. And when I read the stories this morning, I was struck by, again, that these.
Is that her lipstick that's on her hand there? Or has she got a wank bruise? Wank bruise. I've never thought about that before.
Stories had been raised at the time, and contemporary leaders either managed it so that women weren't anywhere near Brand.
And she has got lipstick on her palm and on her finger up there. She is waffling, isn't she? She isn't saying anything interesting.
Yeah, Brand.
Sorry, go back.
And so they kind of kept people safe in that way, but didn't actually deal with the allegations with him directly, or ignored them. And I think it is very different now in what would be expected of how people would respond to these, and certainly that's the case in my sector.
Josh, Russel Brand has, as we said, denied all these allegations.
In 10 years' time and 20 years' time, there'll be people being accused in all sectors of doing same sexual impropriety and people protecting them. It's a tale as old as time. It's bullshit. What she's saying is bullshit. Nearly everything she just said there is logical fallacy, virtue, protect my own industry.
I think it's just worth making a point, and we have to be quite careful about how we talk about this one, but it's worth making a point about the reaction to this story.
Worth making a point about the reaction. I thought she was worth making a point that he hasn't been tried in a court of law, and this is a court of public opinion.
In some areas of the internet, on Twitter, and the types of comments that are being made and the type of reaction? Because it's been very strong. Russel Brand obviously came out before this story was published to make a rebuttal, which in itself is quite unusual.
Unusual. He got an email and he got a letter, so he made a rebuttal. That's a perfect reason to make a rebuttal. And he's got a platform with millions and millions and millions of users, and he preempted it beforehand. It's not actually that unusual for people to make a statement about something. It's just not normally that they have such a platform to be able to do such a thing.
What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, I actually have been quite alarmed by some of the response to this.
Oh, here we go. This is what
there is a reasonable debate to be had about how claims like this are processed in the media, and you can have a debate about the journalism that's done. I think it's pretty good, frankly. But
I think it's pretty good, frankly.
You've got people coming, like Elon Musk, for example, coming out and saying, well, of course they don't like competition. The idea being that somehow Russel Brand's success in alternative media has meant that Channel 4 and the Sunday Times and the Times are going after him to almost kill his career. That's not what's happening here.
How do you know that's not what's happening?
How do you know? Sensitive allegations, and they've been dealt with by very good journalists who are seeking to tell these people's stories, these young women's stories.
Actors.
This is not about Russel Brand's.
It is about Russel Brand.
Frankly, that's not relevant here.
It's not YouTube alone, is it? It's about his merger over to another area. Now, there you go. So, Russel Brand, been in loads of trouble, hasn't he? And the Sunday Times have done a right jobby on him. Right jobby. Seeing that guy who is just honestly, yeah, that's a good shot to have of him. Look at him. Look at him. He is weak as they come. They have to choose people who basically don't have balls to report on this stuff, because you'd have to tell a bit of truth. No one there said a bit of truth. They all hid. They all hid away inside themselves as much as they could, because they did not want to face the facts. And the facts are there's not enough evidence to take anything forward at the moment. By the looks of it, it's all just her word against his, or blah de blah. No police reports at the time. Is there nothing? There could be a lot more that comes out about this, but until there is, all you've got are people working under pseudonyms who are actors, and it doesn't work. It all tastes like pasty.